Welcome to Black Woman Leading the podcast. I'm Laura Knights, your host and the founder of blackwomanleading.com. Today we're talking about recovering from layoff with Dr. Karma Hill and Dr. Chinasa Elue. If you have been experiencing a layoff, if you are in career transition, or if someone you care for is in career transition, and you're wondering how you can maintain or how they can maintain their mental and emotional health while they are doing all the things to determine their next opportunity, we're going to get into that into this episode and help to support your heart work while you do the tactical work of finding your next opportunity. If any of that resonates with you, you need to keep listening. Let's get into it.
Black woman leading. Black woman leading. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity.
Hey y'all, before we jump into this episode, I wanted to let you know that registration is now open for the January 2026 cohorts of both our early career and mid-career leadership development programs. No matter where you are on your career journey, our programs are designed to support your holistic development, wellness, and career growth. Our mid-career program is designed for mid and senior level leaders, and it focuses on developing a customized career strategy in this season of your career. Our early career program is a training program, and it's designed to strengthen the foundational leadership competencies really needed to grow into leadership roles. And of course, both programs will center your mental wellness and self-care and also provide a culturally relevant lens for you to do your personal and professional development work as a Black woman. Now, both programs include a ticket to our annual Black Woman Leading Live conference and retreat. It's taking place May 11th through the 14th, 2026 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Now, speaking of Black Woman Leading Live, it is the premier leadership development conference to help Black women professionals learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. And honey, let me tell you, we have a time there. Activities include workshops, panels, wellness breaks, laser coaching, networking, action planning, and all of this in community with other brilliant Black women from across the country. Okay, in our 2026 event, we're going to be focusing on being future ready leaders. So if you want to explore registering for one of our programs, our cohort programs, or if you just want to register for the conference, either thing, you can see the links in the show notes or visit our website at www.blackwomanleading.com to get all the details.
Black woman leading. Keep on healing.
So today we're talking about recovering from a layoff with Dr. Karma Hill and Dr. Chinasa Elue. Welcome, ladies.
Hey.
So I thought this was a really timely topic for this season, and we're going to jump into it. But before that, let me give you the official about our guests. So Dr. Chinasa Elue is an award-winning professor, TEDx speaker, grief coach, and CEO and founder of True Titans Consulting Group. She provides strategic coaching and consulting to organizations moving forward to make impactful changes in the midst of uncertainty. Her work focuses on the ways in which we cultivate spaces in society to have authentic conversations about grief in an effort to provide more holistic grief support. She is also the host of the Grieving in Color podcast, a podcast that explores the various ways we navigate our experiences with grief and loss, and a place where we find courage to intentionally heal in our daily lives. Now, Dr. Karma Hill is a burnout prevention strategist, executive coach, and positive psychologist dedicated to helping leaders and organizations flourish from the inside out. As the creator of the REST framework, resilience, emotional intelligence, self-care, and trust, she equips executives and mission-driven teams to prevent burnout, lead with purpose, and cultivate psychologically safe, thriving cultures. She is also the founder of Conversations with Karma and the Flourish Forum magazine. So, I always say our guests have receipts, okay? But why this topic, you all? And why these two ladies to talk about the topic? So, Dr. Karma and Dr. Chinasa are part of our Black Woman Leading coaching team. And so in our community, we have seen that there are a number of our community members experiencing layoff, okay? Outside of that, if you've been following any of the news about the experience of Black women and their employment, over the last few months from when this was filmed, Black women have had an increase in their unemployment rate. It's about 6.7 nationally for Black women, where everyone else is about 4.3%. So this considerable increase that is, overwhelmingly impacting Black women is something we need to talk about. Outside of the economic impact, there is a considerable amount of mental and emotional stress that Black women are facing around this, and this is why we want to talk about this topic today. All right, y'all, so let's jump into this. I always have to ask all of my guests before we get into our topic today, because people need to know about y'all. Tell me what the phrase Black woman leading means to you, and share a little bit about your journey as a Black woman leading. Carmen, you want to get us started?
Sure. Great question. I always love thinking about Black women leading. I think we all embody what Black women leading is, right? It's not just about leadership in the workplace. I think we're leaders in our own homes, in our communities. I think it's taking a look at the resources that maybe we haven't always had equitably, but we've been able to take what little we did have and actually influence the rest of the world, honestly. So when I think about Black women leading, I think about our influence and our access to being able to use our under I guess utilized resources. And a little bit about, I guess, my journey with Black women leading. I think I've always been a leader in some capacity, right? But I know that I really tapped in and focused on it a lot more when I started thinking about my journey with burnout and what it truly meant to still be able to show up and do all the things that I needed to do in the world. So coming from a place of depletion and figuring out what that looked like to actually replenish my cup, I think is really where I began this work in my journey to actually stepping into my leadership.
And y'all, I just have to insert this because I can't help myself. Just a couple of days before this recording, Dr. Karma officially became Dr. Karma. Hey. So all of us was on her dissertation defense. I was on there crying like a baby just because, to see her work, which was centered around Black women in burnout, and to see our experiences, elevated, amplified in this space, right? And adding more scholarship to the world. It was amazing. So Dr. Karma in the building.
Yes. Thank you.
And this burnout thing, I think is, this expertise you have around burnout, I think is really going to be timely in this discussion because it is not only what people were experiencing leading up to layoffs, yes, then it's the emotional and mental stress while they're navigating it too.
Absolutely.
So we definitely going to have to tap into that burnout.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Chinasa.
Hey.
Okay, you want me to ask it again?
Oh, you don't have to. Because, when I think about a Black woman leading, I think about Black women stepping into their authenticity, stepping into their truth. I think naturally we are gifted with the gift to lead. And so when I think about Black women leading, I think about excellence. Because I think that Black women do embody excellence. We're the number one in a lot of different areas, right? Heavily credentialed, most educated in a lot of ways, Dr. Karma.
In the building.
Right.
In
Dr.
the building.
Chinasa.
And I think in a lot of ways, we lean into that spirit of excellence in terms of how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
And so I see that in terms of the different industries that we see Black women present in. Wherever you see a Black woman leading, it's going to be okay.
Yep.
And I'll transition just to say the way I got into the work I'm doing right now, particularly around grief, is from my own lived experience. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer 6 years ago. And losing her was such a catastrophic event in my life. But I'm very grateful that I was able to navigate that season and step into a space where I knew we needed to talk about grief more holistically. It's seen as such a taboo topic in society at large, but the reality is we will all walk through some form or season of grief, and we need to know how to better navigate it so that we can continue to achieve the things that we've been called to do. So I knew I wanted to engage more intentionally, and so here I am today.
Yeah, and I think really wanted to bring your expertise on this grief, because so often we only think about bereavement or death,
Yes.
and grief is happening whenever there's a major transition.
Absolutely.
Like a layoff.
Yes.
So we're going to get into that. Okay, so let's jump into the topic.
layoffs can be a deeply personal blow for people, especially when we think about just in our Black woman leading community, the work we've done with people around separating their identity
Yes.
from their work. Like, to the point where when something wasn't going right with the work, they didn't know who they were sometimes, right? And so if we think about elements like that, as we think about Black women in our community who are experiencing layoff, can you share just from your perspective of the burnout, of the grief, kind of what are some of the elements at play that they might be dealing with when, navigating this transition of being unemployed or being laid off? Many people surprisingly laid off, right? They didn't know it was coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, even from some people that I've been speaking with, is that identity piece, right? Like, a lot of times you've worked really hard to progress in your career. You start to kind of see yourself through that lens. It's mirrored back. This is the work you're doing every day. You're finding that fulfillment, that joy, excitement, a lot of times from the work that you're doing. You're providing for yourself, your family, all of that.
Yeah.
And then to have to see yourself through a different lens of uncertainty, maybe not being that person that can show up and, we support our families most of the time, right? So when we win, we win it for everybody.
Yeah.
So then to be able to tell those people who are dependent on you, I don't even know where I'm going and what I'm doing. So I think the identity piece is a huge one, to be able to separate who you are and still be able to trust your own intuition, your own voice, to really be able to center yourself and your values and being grounded in you. But that identity is hard not to tie that in, when a lot of times, it's what's reflected back. It feels good.
It feels
Yes.
good, yeah. Yeah, you get esteem from the work, right?
absolutely.
And so being separated from that from some people is really hard.
Yeah, so that uncertainty piece that also comes along with that, when you have people naturally asking you, okay, so what you gonna do? You don't always know, especially when it was a surprise and you hadn't really been thinking about that pivot or that change. You don't know, and then you've been seen as this person who has the answers.
Yeah.
So now to be able to go, I'm certain about everything else. I'm this great leader, and now to say, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
Especially, sometimes, and I get it, right? I get it, but sometimes these organizations doing people dirty and how
Yes.
they,
Come on.
you know what I mean?
Because
How
you
they,
knew you was going to do
I've
this.
seen people
Yeah.
that your whole family just relocated. You sold your house in another
Yes.
state, and you've been here for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later, you're finding out that you're going to be,
Let go.
let go. Like, I get that there are sometimes things that, organizations can't share, but it needs to be some more ethical and humane ways in how people are doing some of this stuff,
Absolutely,
too.
because we can still
Yeah.
show up with, integrity, empathy, compassion,
Yeah.
even making sure that you're maintaining the bottom line for the business. It can still be
Yeah.
empathetic and compassionate way in which we do, because why would you relocate someone's whole family
Yeah.
to then let them go?
Like, y'all knew something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Chinasa, when you think about from your vantage point of the grief piece, can you talk a little bit about that career transitions
Yes.
lens and how that starts to overlap into this?
Absolutely. I think especially when you're recovering from a layoff, there's a sense of betrayal being let go from your organization. We spend so much time at work. We hear this adage all the time, work twice as hard to get half as much, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when you pour in your blood, your sweat, your tears, and you have all of that built up in an organization and then you're let go? There's a sense of betrayal. There's a lot of deep pain that's
Yeah.
associated with the layoff itself. And I think our identities are tethered to our jobs at times, right? We're used to showing up and performing well. And I think the piece that ends up kind of unraveling the thread here is when the very thing that helped us to feel like we were achieving our life's purpose or our life's work is snatched up under the rug, right? And then we have to figure out, how am I going to recalibrate myself? What do I do next? And you begin to find, what I found in talking with people is that they're grieving not only their identity, but their networks that they've cultivated over time. The body of work that they've built up that demonstrates their expertise is no longer valid in that context. And so they're having to now think about reinventing themselves and wondering, do they have enough skills? And I think a piece of this is, what next? Because that the grief can sometimes manifest as fear because there's so much unknown that's associated with this new terrain they have to embark on.
Yeah, and I think when people sometimes they hear grief and apply to professional settings and it feels extreme or something. But I mean, if you think about it, it's really about letting go of something.
Yes.
We experience grief for all types of things,
Correct.
even beautiful things. I remember, having my first child, who's now 16, right? But I remember having my first child and having a moment of like an identity crisis. Of course, I loved my child. I wanted my child. I planned for my child. But I remember having a bit of an identity crisis of like, now who am I again?
Right.
Because I had been, this adult who can get up and go, and I was a full-grown woman when I had her, right? And it was a shift, right? And so that same thing is happening when we're experiencing some of these career transitions as well. Let's think about this. We know for a lot of Black women, career success isn't just a personal achievement. It's about community. It's about legacy. You mentioned, Karma, like we're often, taking care of other people.
Yes.
What is the impact, do you think, of like on the community, on the village, when we're experiencing the layoff? Like, what is that nuance there when there are all these people that are depending on you or that you have to answer to?
Yeah, so a lot of what we start to see is women in the workplace are already experiencing some burnout usually, right? To your point, we work twice as hard to get half as far. You've been told that since you were small. So you already are experiencing some strain. Then when you start to add the pressures of, okay, I've gotten to a good place. I'm able to help, my family. I'm able to do some of the things. When a lot of times there are only a few people that are in that space to do that. So you're carrying the weight of multiple people. So your community and your village don't always know how to come alongside you outside maybe and support that. They don't know what to do. And then you're burning out. So then you're starting to look at yourself differently. That emotional exhaustion starts to set in. The doubting of your professional efficacy as well, where you start to look at yourself like, okay, well, is it me? Because usually in a layoff, some people remained, right?
Yeah.
They ain't shut down. So that means, is it me? Was it something that I'm not doing? So that self-doubt starts to creep in. And it's hard to reflect back that sense of confidence and certainty to your community, which then becomes that mirror effect.
Yeah.
So it starts to impact a lot of areas of our life, especially if you're not maintaining your level of self-care, which naturally can start to shift because you're now focused on like, I got to figure out what I need to do in the midst of this. So self-care can seem like a luxury.
Yeah.
When we know that it's not, it's a necessity, it's essential, even more so during that time period. You have to be able to ramp up your self-care and think about what it is to be able to sustain you so that you can sustain the community. And a lot of times we don't have language to be able to communicate that to those that we are in community with and those that we support.
Yeah.
So it becomes I'm feeling a little bit isolated because I don't know how to say, Chinasa, right now I'm struggling. This is what I need from you.
Yeah.
And then the community also doesn't know, like, I ain't seen you like you ain't been in need because you've been the strong one.
Yeah.
So now you what do you mean you in need? Like, because it then starts to make them feel some fear and some trepidation because if you were certain and now you're not, what does this mean for me?
Exactly.
So it has a ripple effect that I really think that organizations really need to take a look at. Like, I understand that, financial decisions have to be made being a business owner. I get it.
Yeah.
But we do have to think about the fact that, hey, we are impacting communities when we are laying people off. This is not just an individual. And in turn, it's a ripple effect, right?
Yeah. I want to come back to the self-care, but before we get off this grief, I did want to come back to you, Chinasa, and ask for your take on, many people, and no judgment, right, often out of necessity, try to bounce back, get that new job, move on after layoff. But what would you say is some of the consequence for not giving yourself a little bit of time in the grieving process, right? What is the consequence of that?
I think the consequence is you may not realize how you're showing up in that next role, right? You may be carrying some old baggage that you need to sit down with a therapist or a trusted professional and take the time to unpack, because maybe there is some feedback that you received along the way that may be beneficial for you to really attend to before you step into that new role. And so I think the disadvantage here is that if we don't, then we show up and we may be carrying some anger and some resentment and some hurt and all of the associated emotions with the layoff. We're still carrying that like a brand new bag coming into the job thinking we're doing something, but it's like, no, we can see you.
Yeah, we see you.
Raggedy.
See all that. Yeah, exactly.
You
raggedy.
wonder why you can't make new relationships. Your boss don't like you. You know, all of it is showing up differently. And so I think we have to take time to really tease out our emotions because you've been hurt, you've been laid off, and sometimes we let that fear force our hand in how we might even start engaging in the job. Maybe you stay after hours, which leads to burnout, right? You have no boundaries anymore because you're like, if they laid me off then and I was doing all this, well, let me ramp it up again.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a need to sit down and really assess, what happened. And then really determine for yourself, how do you want this new role to unfold for you? Recognizing that it's an opportunity to rebrand, and the rebrand can be televised, okay?
Yeah.
Like you can show up differently in this new space, and you can be okay with that. But you have to do the deep emotional work first before you can do that.
Yeah, and I think too, there's space for that because we're finding a lot of people are not getting something right away.
Yes.
Right.
They're having to sit. Or some people were in a really privileged or blessed space where maybe they are taking the time because they did have some reserves. We've seen that in our Black women leading community where people are like, they laid me off, but I looked at the bank account and I can hang for a little bit. Or they had a investment property or something like that. And so we've seen people also using the time for rest, to recover from burnout.
Yeah.
The number of Black women leading that I've seen over the last 5 years who have maybe been laid off or something of that sort, and they say, this is the first time since I was 15 years old that I didn't have a job, and I can I at least got 3 months. I'm gonna chill for a minute because I've never experienced this before. So there are all these different experiences we see that people have, but I love your point around, regardless of if this is freedom for you, or if this is like, oh my God, I got to get something, taking that moment to still check in with self and say, how am I feeling? What's going on with me? How am I doing? Yeah. Now, back to the self-care thing and talking about the burnout. How can someone tell, Karma, if they're still carrying the effects of burnout even after leaving a stressful job or after being laid off from a stressful job? Like, what are some of those indicators that we might be in the throes or just coming out of burnout?
Yeah, so a lot of times you still not able to turn off, right? Like even when you have space for rest, like you look at your calendar and you like, it's white space here, I can. But internally, your nervous system has not been able to. It just won't allow you. You got to find something. Those are some of those indicators because if you're doing, bar doing everything you need to be doing, but when you have the space and you're like, I can't shut off, I just can't stop. That's one of those indicators that you are still carrying some of that, and that some of that's still living in your body, that's in the nervous system, and you need to do some work to actually be able to restore that. But a lot of times we just feel like, okay, well, I'm busy, I got to keep going, I got things I need to get done. But we don't give ourselves that pause that you talk about to really, really think about that. Sometimes people go back in and it's like, okay, well, it's still a bit of cynicism that you haven't been able to shake all of that. Yeah. And you become a little cynical about things and you're like, that's lasting a little longer. Especially when at one point you were maybe that optimistic, glass half full type of person. And then you become a little bit jaded and you're carrying that with you. Totally different environment. These are new people, like you're not experiencing that and you still feel some of that. Probably need to check in and see like, okay, what's going on here? I'm restoring some because sometimes we're so depleted that when you get just a little bit, you're like, okay, I'm good. Yeah. But you're not.
It's not enough.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't always know because a lot of times we've never been at 100%. Wow. We have been living this journey. I mean, it's in our DNA.
Yeah.
A lot of this is epigenetics. So some of us have never experienced life from a full cup.
Not burnt out. Dang.
You don't, and you didn't really know it because
that's deep.
You didn't really get a name for it. It's like, if you think back, let's look at our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, like, so you're like, okay, well, if I had a little bit more to give than them, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you're not.
Just tired.
You're
perpetually tired. Or with the perpetual side eyes, what you say.
Exactly. Like, okay.
This is good. Okay. So we've been acknowledging, right, what some of the experience is, what some of the fallout is from this. But okay, let's talk about getting people to the other side, right? What are some kind of small, intentional, maybe starter practices that people can start to integrate for themselves to do, that healing work around this, even while they are looking for jobs or taking their break if they're deciding to do that? What's your take on some kind of small, intentional recovery practices people can start with?
Yeah, I think the first thing is starting with that centering in self, whether that's meditation, it's mindfulness practices, a little bit of stillness to actually just really figure out what's coming up. A lot of times we busy ourselves so much that we don't even know, and we're not that connected to ourselves. So I think starting there and then finding those little micro pockets of joy, things that make you smile, things you may have forgotten that you even loved or enjoyed, or a lot of us are in new seasons in life.
Yeah.
What is it that you can find? I mean, funny thing, I got these tomatoes growing up. First off, let me just say I don't even eat tomatoes other than fried green tomatoes, but planted these seeds, so it's doing okay. But just the excitement that I get, they're like, okay, I planted, these seeds. I done been out here watering this stuff. I done been through figuring out why these leaves look like that, all the things. But at the end of the day, I was able to go in because other people in my house eat them. I'm like, look, y'all ain't got to go to the store. I got y'all some tomatoes. Those small micro things that, don't cost you a ton, especially right now while you in transition. But you can find the little pockets of joy, going outside, the mindfulness walks and things that I take. I think about the fact that even though I may have challenges in my life, the vastness of this universe and this planet, I could never recreate this.
Yeah.
It allows me to be connected to something so much greater than myself, and it reminds me that even in my worst moments, I am still blessed that I'm able to walk outside.
Yeah.
There are people who are fearful of bombs going off, that's not my journey. So it reminds me, a perspective shift as well.
That's good. What would you say, Chinasa, some intentional practices that people might start to recover after a layoff?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we can do, because I think even the initial shock, right? Sometimes you might find yourself just bedridden, unable to get up, just really sad and depressed at the actual experience. I think what can be helpful is a lot of the tips that Dr. Carmer shared, of course. And I think a big piece of this is doing this in community too.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes when we experience a layoff, I think people don't know necessarily how to approach that person.
Yeah.
And I think a gift here could be thinking about how might we rally around the person who's walking through the layoff, right? So one thing I've told people often in the past is if you know someone has a interview coming up, a simple gas card can go a long way, right? Or if you know they have small kids and they need support, maybe you step in and say, hey, I have some time off this afternoon. Let me watch your kids while you go for your interview, or just even if you need a break in general, right? It may not necessarily be job related, but it may be something just to support you in that context. Grocery cards, things of that capacity. I think, those are big things here, because once you bring your community into what you're walking through, then you can all collectively decide what might be most beneficial for you in real time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we may not even know our left from our right because we're so jarred by that experience. But I think being able to talk about it with trusted people helps a lot, so that you can kind of map out your steps.
Yeah, and I think the community piece is so important, because there is, especially if someone is recovering from a layoff and having a really hard time with it, there is sometimes people go within, right? They isolate. And I think about just, last month, we hosted a community workshop for our Black women leading who are unemployed right now. And we called it, stress management while job seeking. And we talked about some stress management. We just talked with each other how people were doing. And the number of people that said just coming together was so helpful for me. It's reminding me that I'm not alone. Other people are experiencing this. It's reminding me this is a season. This is not forever. And that in that isolation, sometimes we go down that dark, that's dark, slippery slope, and it goes into the worst of everything. And being in connected with your community can remind you, this is a season, boo. We gonna come
That
right on
part.
through it.
Yes.
It's a rough season. We're not gonna downplay it, but it's a season. And so I love that you brought up the community piece, because I think it's so important. Okay, good stuff.
All right. I do want to acknowledge, and I said it at the top of the session, I do want to acknowledge, at the time of this recording, we have a, surge in Black women being unemployed. And there's a number of reasons, right? When we read what the pundits are saying about this, they're talking about the federal layoffs. They're talking about, just all manner of things happening politically. They're talking about the anti-DEI movement, which left a lot of Black women in leadership roles. So there are definitely some systemic things happening here. It's not just that you weren't performing or that the company decided and you were the last one hired, first one fired, right? That's for some people, but the numbers of Black women indicate that there are some systemic things going here. So what would you say? We know whenever there's some systemic oppression that people experience or inequities, there is the ability for that oppression to be internalized, to be, turned inward. And so I guess I'm asking, what advisory or words, encouragement would you say to Black women who are not necessarily connecting to everything? Ain't there's something that's wrong with you. Sometimes it's the system that we're operating in. That doesn't change the experience people are having. But I just wonder, what are some ways that we can help people not to turn into that internalized oppression, but to still trust themselves? To still, acknowledge that there are some skills and contributions that they have. Any kind of just words of encouragement come up that you would give someone that's listening?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, as a positive psychologist, I lead with strength-based work, right? I mean, definitely go check in, remind yourself of your strengths. I think a lot of times we get so busy and everything else. Remind yourself of your strengths and your values and what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And even if that's no longer being seen as a value and a gift there, it doesn't mean that the gifts are not still gifts.
Yeah.
Your talents and your gifts and your abilities are still what they are. So I think reminding yourself, like intentionally with a practice, maybe you need to go back through, or if you've never done values work and strength-based, find your strengths and be able to actually really be able to name those. So when you're talking to yourself, you are having that strength-based, values-based inner dialogue that will really build you up when these systems are actually tearing you down.
Yeah, they can resist some of the other messages that you're getting. Yeah, that's good. What would you say?
I would say practice radical self-compassion.
Yep.
I think a big piece of this is that our confidence is taking a hit when we get laid off in this capacity. We know that we've done a great job, but given some of the systemic issues, right, this was outside of our realm of control. And so I think a big piece of just being able to be compassionate towards ourselves is acknowledging what is within our locus of control. Absolutely. Recognizing that the policy shifts, all of it, are things that if we could have, we would have changed in a positive way for ourselves. But again, we just have to really take an inward glance and say, you know what? I don't control how this system is unfolding and how it's impacting us as Black women. But what I can do is just take a more compassionate glaze at myself and offer myself the ability to just sit in this moment and acknowledge that, yes, it's painful, but I know that better days are ahead. And giving ourselves the grace and time to really just process our emotions, I think is a gift in and of itself. But we shouldn't beat ourselves up. Yeah. We should not demean our skill sets or abilities or begin to blame ourselves for something that we absolutely had no hand in. Yeah. We just take it one day at a time and then make the necessary shifts, knowing that we will rise from this again as we always do.
Yeah.
So good. Yes. So good, Dr. Chinasa.
So our season 8 theme is leaning into joy, right? It might feel like a stretch for somebody that's listening who's dealing with career disappointment, a layoff, etc. But I'll ask you all this as I transition to a core question that I can ask you all as well. But how do you define joy in the context of loss? Whew. So we done lost some things. Oh. In this episode, we're talking about a job, right? In another episode, it could have been a loved one. In another episode, it could have been a relationship, a marriage. It could have been a pet. Yes. It could have been. How do we lean into joy when we're in a season of loss? Is that possible? Yes. How do we do it? What's your take on it?
I mean, I do think both can exist at the same time. And in order for me to complete the cycle, I guess, so to speak, and any major transition, I do try to find like the lessons in it. Where were the joyful moments, so that I can take note of it and I can replicate that in others. I think it's what builds that resilience and, especially that adaptive resilience piece that I like to reframe resilience as. If I start to really create that practice and remember that, like, at the end of the day, all things are working out for us, whether we believe it or not. And to date, we're here as a result of a lot of things that's happened. We've overcome a lot, and we're still here. So what are those lessons that we can learn, and where were those moments of joy throughout that? So you can extract the learnings and kind of let go of the sadness that, you want to leave that behind as you move through it.
Yeah, that's good.
I agree, Karma. Definitely, there's a duality to this thing called life, right? Joy and grief can coexist. In terms of how I define joy, I define joy just by having the grace to show up every day and look for moments where I just see the beauty of what life has presented before me. I think when you are recovering from a layoff, you may see doom and gloom all over the place, right? And rightfully so. You got bills due, you got rent due, daycare, all the things, the car notes. And it can be very hard to get into a space where you're more so just concerned about the basic needs. How am I going to survive this, right? But even in the midst of you're trying to put together a strategic plan, there are moments to embrace joyful activities, right? Yes. So whatever it is that has brought you joy in the past may be diminished a little bit because you are in a state of grief because you're in transition. But I would encourage you to continue to think about those pockets of joy that you mentioned, right? Little things that we can do to just really help amplify what we need in real time. I'll give a quick example. I love flowers, right? I know if you're thinking like, okay, I don't have time to go buy no flowers. I get it, right? But even if you enjoy something floral in that context, you can go to your local grocery store, get a nice little, get some blooms and come together and put together a nice arrangement that can highlight your day, right? It's going for a walk. It's having a good kiki with a girlfriend, right? If someone offers to take you out to lunch, go out there and have a good time, right? Just embracing community and embracing those moments of joy, I think, can also elevate your spirits so that you can be in a good space to search for another job.
Yeah, and don't be acting funny. If somebody tell you they want to take you out to eat,
okay?
Right? Nah, girl, I want to go out to eat.
Take them up on it. Allow them to pour into you.
Yes.
Order the appetizer and the dessert.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, I do want to ask you one of our core questions on our season's theme of leaning into joy. But before we do that and transition from this topic of recovering from layoff, any final kind of things on this topic that you want to leave the listeners with?
I think one thing I need everybody to remember, even in this season, that it's just that a season. When you think about like the seasons that are changing, like we are all like right now we're in fall, right? Summer's coming to an end. The temperatures are getting colder, but we know that spring is gonna come again. Summer's gonna come again. So remembering that this is a season. This is not you. It's not your identity. It's a season, so you can navigate this. We've done hard things before, and you can make it through.
Yeah. I would just say that this is not the summation of your career experience. This is just a comma. Okay.
Yes.
It seems like a period, like a hard stop, and it may slow you down a little bit, but it's a comma. You will continue again, right? There are new opportunities. There's an opportunity to really rediscover yourself, to align and say, is this really what I want to be when I grow up?
Yep.
And if not, this is a welcome opportunity to shift. But there's always room for more growth in your transition. Don't let it stop you right here. Lean into this season and see what can you learn from this experience and where might it take you as you move forward.
Yeah, that's good. And I know a lot of our conversation is really centered around the hard work and some of the healing aspects of this recovering from a layoff. But I would just say on the head work or the tactical side, lean into your network.
Yes.
Right? As you're looking for a job. Just the other day, we had a meetup when I was in Chicago for Black Women Leading for the local Chicago alums to just come together, break bread. And one of our early career alums has been laid off and is without a job now. She's been looking. She's been a little discouraged. And so these are people from all different cohorts, right? So I'm talking to her over on the end, and I said, you got your speech together about what you're looking for and what kind of skills you have? And she said, yeah,
I said, let's go over to the other end because there's some Black women leading bosses down there. And you haven't met them because they OG alums,
Okay.
right? They've been here for a
OGs.
minute. And I took her down to the end of the table and she had her spiel. She said what she was looking for. And they was like, oh, okay. They were exchanging numbers. Somebody was talking about an interview before we were out to dinner. And she was leaving there with an opportunity to pursue, right?
Yes.
And so I just want to encourage people that, yeah, we're talking about more your healing and taking care of your mental health, your emotional health. But on the tactical side, yes, get on the websites. Yes, send out your resume. But don't be quiet. Like,
Okay.
reach out to your people. Change your LinkedIn. Put that message up there. Let
Yes.
people know, hey, I'm looking. And then tell your network explicitly what you're looking for. Not just that I'm looking for a job. What is my skills? What is the industry? What would the ideal role look like? So that as things come across people's desks, you can be top of mind. So there's not the time to be quiet and shy. You know, you got to speak up. And that was a great example. She was coming out to break bread, get out the house, and left with an opportunity to follow on just from opening up her mouth and asking for help, right?
Yes.
So courage, y'all. You get to talk in this season.
Yes, gotta talk.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you all one core question. You know, our season 8 theme is leaning into joy, and we really want to center how do we intentionally create joy practices in our everyday life, which we've been talking about a little bit today. So I'll just ask you all, for yourself personally as role models in the Black woman leading world, what is one way you are intentionally creating space for more joy in your life these days?
You know, I am actively embracing this question. I am always looking for more joy, given the context and time. I will say this. I am heavily leaning into community. And I mean, not just in one pocket, in multiple spaces. So I think when we say community, you know, it's not just one or two girlfriends that you lean on. You might have a group of people for this and a group of people for that. For me, I love my gym community. I call that my happy place, believe it or not. I really do enjoy working out with my gym mates. They are like a family for me in that context. And then I lean into my girlfriends, of course. You know, we love a good brunch, you know, and so exploring new restaurants and leaning into all of the food scene in the Metro Atlanta area because it is good. And then I'll mention lastly, I love making nourishing meals. My kids just said this week, Mama, you need to open a restaurant. And so I was like, I'm in my bag, y'all.
Yes, ma'am. We
So, you know, I love making savory, nourishing meals that they enjoy. Even though I may not like to cook every day, but when I hear those comments, I'm like, baby, what you want? Okay. I'm like a sous chef in the kitchen. So I don't mind busting out some skills for those that I love, but it's bringing me a sense of joy to try new recipes in this season.
I love it.
Yes.
How are you making space, Karma?
Yes. So as I've completed this PhD program, I got a little bit more time back. But even while I was in it, trying to do some of those things, like I do enjoy cooking and being plant-based, you know, really finding a variety of different things. And I think that's what's kept me on this plant-based journey for so long. I've just found a lot of different recipes, different things, and then the gardening, and then to be able to take things that I grew and then bring them into the kitchen and nourish myself. And the other one is rest.
Okay.
I have always had a dynamic with resting. Because I've always been, you know, high achieving, like most people, really driven, and resting has not always come easy for me. So really being intentional about, like, my daughter, she's good at helping with it because my youngest one, she's 16, but still want to watch TV with me or watch a movie. And before I would lean into, like, I don't have time because I'm not a real big TV watcher, but I have really been like, girl, we can sit on the couch and yes, I will watch this. And then I have to remind myself that it's okay. You don't have to do it with the laptop sometimes.
That part.
Watching the series with the laptop.
Right. So I have to really be intentional that, like, okay, I can get into this and I can give myself that permission to do that. So yeah, those are some of mine, you know, just cooking, gardening, sitting down. Like, I'm like, I don't know what it feels like, then I do nothing. Feel a little like, is this real?
Yeah. I love it. Well, this has been so good. I hope if people have been listening, they got something from this. How can people connect with you? What do you got going on these days that people need to know about?
Well, I am hosting my first ever grief retreat.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I am really excited in stepping into this next level with this work. I know that there are needed spaces to talk about grief, and I am curating a very small but intimate gathering for folks who really want to dig in deep to those emotions and find ways to continue their healing journey.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be this December. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me on the interwebs. I'm on all socials at Dr. Chinasa Elue, as well as my website.
Yep, and we'll put the links in the show notes, and the retreat is in the Atlanta area.
It's in the Metro Atlanta area in
Okay.
December 2025.
Awesome.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, what you got
Excited
going
for
on,
you.
Dr. Karma? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on all socials at Conversations with Karma, Conversations with a K. And then by the time this airs, I will have released my website, Dr. Karma Hill.
Yes.
So already in the works. So by the time this airs, that will be. So drkarmahill.com and conversationswithkarma.com is my current website, and on all social media platforms. So
Awesome. We'll put all the links in the show notes.
Yes.
Well, I hope you all got something from this. Even if you are not dealing with a layoff, if you have a loved one that is dealing with it and you got some tips to support them, we hope this has been helpful for you. Share this episode with your network, with your family, with your friends. We are on all streaming platforms and also on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe, comment, rate, all of the things. If you want to connect with us at Black Woman Leading, we are at Black Woman Leading on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also visit our website at blackwomanleading.com. If you want to connect with me personally, I'm at Laura E. Knights on Instagram and LinkedIn. And of course, if you'd like to learn about the work we do inside of organizations to create more conscious leaders and high-performing teams, you can check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.